Hello, this is Community of Independence on DCTV, your weekly window into the world of independent music in Ireland. Much like the phenomenal fifth album Come Around Sundown by Kings of Leon, or the exquisite fifth record by Oasis, Heathen Chemistry. Ew. Community of Independence Episode 5, Season 2 will no doubt go down in history as our very best. Coming up on tonight's show, we have music and chat in the studio from Sleep Thieves. We'll be talking to Keane and Blake from the Loudmouth Collective. We have an Aoife Barry interview with and performance from the legendary Jimmy Cake. And we also have some Mango magic as Kieran Mangan meets the visual artist Tissier. So there you go. Tonight's show, sure, it's a ready-made Police Academy 5 assignment Miami Beach. Here's Orquesta, Kokomo.
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go to Jamaica, off to Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo, that's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your hand. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo.
Martinique, that Montserrat mystique.
We'll put out to sea and we'll perfect our chemistry. By and by we'll defy a little bit of gravity. Afternoon daylight, cocktails and moonlit night. That dreamy look in your eye, give me a tropical contact high. Way down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo.
Top Prince, I wanna catch a glimpse.
Everybody knows a little place like Kokomo. Now if you wanna go and get away from it all, go down to Kokomo. Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo. Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo. Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go down to Kokomo? We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go, way down to Kokomo.
Featuring Katie Kim, and Kathy Burke, and Richie Egan. That was Orquesta with Kokomo, and that's the title track to the new EP of the same name you can download for free via Facebook. Also, the video was made by the graphic artist Fatty Burke. Fatty Burke. Okay, I'm joined by Cian and Blake from the Loudmouth Collective. Tell us, gentlemen, what is the Loudmouth Collective, for anyone who doesn't know?
Loudmouth Collective is basically a group of musicians and artists coming together to showcase their work, and just we release we have a lot of music releases, and then we've set in the art galleries and such. Yeah,
and is it a case of there's kind of two different sides of Loudmouth? There's people involved in the music side, and then there's a visual side, video makers, and people doing art exhibitions as well.
Yeah, well, the idea is trying to merge the two and basically get people releasing music. So, for example, if someone has an EP or an album coming out, you know, they'll need album artwork, posters. Yeah, so we'll get graphic designers or painters or whatever works, I suppose.
And you've started just over a year ago. In that time, there's been 20 releases, a lot of output. Was that always the goal? I mean, what were you looking to achieve releasing as much as you have in this year?
Oh, we didn't think it would be that many, but I suppose just once with the original group of people we had, everyone kind of had something going at the beginning, and then the first compilation came out, and up until that there wasn't really any releases, only CF Meister Radio for Face EP. Then the Bastard album from myself and my brother Lee came out, and then there was the first compilation, and then nothing really happened, and then everyone kind of brought out something, kind of one after another, and then slowly we've recruited a few people since, so it's kind of grown steadily since then. Yeah.
And obviously doing things in that volume, if you're releasing that much, and I know that an awful lot of the stuff that comes out free as well, digitally, you can download it. Is it difficult in some way to get exposure for certain releases if you're bringing out so much? I mean, how have things gone so far in terms of getting exposure for the Loudmouth Collective?
Yeah, I think it does. It can, not that we spam people, but because there's so much coming at people, I suppose if people constantly see the same name coming out, it can work both ways. Sometimes they can ignore it, or sometimes I suppose if they enjoy what's happening, they'll be more inclined to come back or see it, and it will spark, and they'll go, great, something new,
Yeah, and taking the collective approach, it seems like there's a new collective in Dublin every week, but I mean, as DJs and producers, did you feel a necessity to take that strength in numbers approach?
Yeah, it was quite beneficial. At first it was just the idea of everyone releasing it kind of under one umbrella, with the idea of everyone was doing everything separately at the beginning. So we were all creating music, which we all love doing, but we were all doing it in different places with different people. So the idea was just round each other up, so the name Loudmouth essentially would just become more noticeable, and people will kind of hear it more, and
Just organising people, I suppose. A lot of sort of young musicians don't really know how to sort of push their own work, and it's kind of a platform for people, I suppose, like that, small-time producers, to give them a voice, for want of a better word, yeah, it's just something that's a bit more recognisable than sort of a lot of different individuals, and it's support as well, we put on a lot of gigs of, live sets that last for like a half an hour or whatever, and there's a lot less pressure on individual artists to put on, a whole show, because we can collectively put on a big show.
Yeah. I imagine it must be kind of difficult to organise things in some regards if there's numerous elements to the Loudmouth Collective. I mean, is there group meetings or what?
Yeah, there is. We would, a few of us were kind of managers. Myself and CF Meister and Sam K originally, I approached those two when I wanted to kind of get it going, and then after that we recruited Sean Redding, Kate McCarroll, who had set up Salt promoters, and they were bringing over artists. They brought over Shackleton, Scuba, just kind of electronic producers and DJs. They're bringing them over from the UK, so they were good to bring on, because they had kind of the event management angle, whereas I'd mostly be kind of focusing on releases and that kind of such thing. Yeah.
Well, it's all gone very well so far. One release that came out recently enough, just last week, was The Gruesome Twosome, and we're going to see a video of them. Do you want to set this up for us? It's Brain Cells?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, let's take a look at this. This is Gruesome Twosome on the Loudmouth Collective with Brain Cells.
Not listening, just waiting to speak. Claiming all my conversations are deep. Sorry for your troubles, don't know if you're aware or not. Holes in my shoes, a glorified pair of socks. Story in me, over a joint or two. All future perceptions will be filtered to this point of view. The writings on the wall, all bent out of shape. Recycling it all, friend has a taste. Can't let it be, treat life as a nuisance. Over every little thing, gotta throw on my 2 cents. You called it again, you call him a friend. Every little thought, it's all in his head. Can't express myself, get out what I'm trying to say. One day I'll make it better, I know I can find a way. Feed them the lies till they're blinded by new faith. Behind the demon's eyes we'll hide our true face.
Okay, so that was a clip of The Gruesome Twosome with Brain Cells, and that was from the album which came out last week on the Loudmouth Collective. And indeed, the video was made in-house by the Loudmouth Collective as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was done by CF Meister. He's done pretty much all the music videos and promotional videos for Loudmouth to date. He's unfortunately leaving for New York, so we're recruiting.
Yeah.
If you're making music videos, come find us. But yeah, he did that one. That was done out in Greystones. It was pretty painful playing the guitar in the freezing cold in the middle of winter.
You can imagine.
Unpleasant to say the least.
Yeah, but again, it's good to have that kind of total control over all aspects of it. You're in charge of the visuals, you're in charge of the music, you're in charge of how things are packaged.
Yeah, I suppose that's the whole idea. You know, we're trying to bring a whole package of promotion from, you know, if someone has a release coming out, it's about, you know, what we can do for them. We can, you know, album artwork, we can do promotion, both like display wise, and then music videos, which is a big key, I think, particularly now, you know, with the internet and everything, people do like visuals, whereas I think it helps when there's something to catch your eye.
Definitely. Well, what else is planned? It's been a very busy year for Loudmouth Collective, but what else is planned for the rest of the year?
It's going to be a busy changeover, I'd say, when Kieran leaves.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got to sort of transfer all the work that he did out into probably 2-3 other people.
Yeah, Rob Torrance is taking over.
Okay.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Go keen here. It's the next podcast coming out.
Yeah, that's going to be an ongoing thing.
Okay.
Podcast every month.
And club nights as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of club. We have one on the 28th of July in Twisted Pepper.
Yeah.
Keane will also be playing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're hoping to get another art gallery going, art exhibition, because that was quite successful. It's a short run now, but it was great to give the artists something, because a lot of the time, a lot of the focus is on the music and the artists are doing stuff for the musicians. But it was nice to have a reverse where there was a gallery and it was the artist's work being displayed and the musician or the DJs or whatever were playing for the gallery, you know. So it was a nice reversal, I think.
Yeah, and that was in the Bernard Shaw. So
that was in the Bernard Shaw. So
again.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get a couple of them going this year, I think, because it was a big success. Like.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we look forward to it. Thanks very much for coming into us, Keane and Blake from the Loudmouth Collective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, right now we have a bit of Mango magic for you as Kieran Mangan meets the guys from the Tissier. They're the visual artists who provided the stunning backdrops for the dance tent at the Body and Soul Festival a couple of weeks back. Let's take a look.
Here we are. I'm here with Tissier, the visual artist, coming out of Dublin at the minute. Hey lads, Mark and Colin.
How's it going? You well?
Hello. Hello. You guys were just down on Body and Soul this weekend. How did it go for you?
It was pretty good. We got commissioned to do the whole thing about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they gave us free reign, so we filled the whole front of the tent in, front and back of the stage in, and one big projector and a tent very full of people having a great time.
For all the acts?
It was kind of, during the day it was fairly come and go-ish, but in the night time, kind of the last 2 acts, it was rammed. You couldn't get into the tent, like.
And the visual end of things, do you see it as a necessity now, or just an extra facet that gets people out and into the gig?
It depends on
another
kind of
selling point.
It depends on how they want to approach it. Like we've had gigs before where, say, a lot of the earlier ones were kind of a lot more to do with branding and kind of throwing a logo up kind of thing, especially for the club nights, and then especially for the music side of things, like the bands and all that, you get a lot more kind of creative flow because you can start working out exactly when a band's can play certain songs, and if there's going to be a breakdown, you can do something special for that and do little set pieces and stuff like that. But nowadays it's all kind of becoming a lot more progressive, like say to do with the body and soul thing, which you probably see or something like that at some stage, or see just photos on the internet of it. It's a lot more to do with kind of set design and stuff like that's involved as well, and kind of creating something that's hasn't been done before, hopefully. Well, at least elaborating on something that may have been done before, but hasn't been done in Ireland per se.
And are you mainly based in the box, say, within laptops and technology that way, or are you
laptops
physical aspects?
Laptops have made it so much easier than like having to drag out a big rig, like a desktop with you or whatever. You can throw it in your backpack, turn it up to a club, and plug in to a straight up screen. But we're trying to push it beyond that now with, like you're saying, physical objects and 3D shapes in real space. So it's not just a 10-foot screen behind a DJ playing. Now it's like he could be. Like we did a thing for Offset where he built this big DJ box that was entirely surrounded by the crowd. It was 360 and it was all mad shapes and stuff. So like it becomes as much the gig as the gig itself. And like I think promoters are branching out more into facilitating and encouraging you to do it. So like it makes it, like you can go see a band, there's a band playing in the black stage, or you can get VJs in and they can make it a bit more different and kind of be cut to music and add atmospheric clips and stuff. So I think it's, you know, you have to have it now, no excuse.
We have a piece put together of the installation from Body and Soul there last weekend, so I think we're going to go have a look at that now.
Cool.
So obviously, other than the budgetary limitations, is there anything else stopping you from doing things?
Well, budget's always a big one. Well, in anything, I suppose. The more money you have, the more you have an opportunity to do, and the more kind of, especially in kind of progressive kind of means like this, the more you can start testing new things as well. A lot of the time, you can't just buy something straight off the shelf. Yeah. You have to go out and either like sort of brainstorm it up, make sure it works in theory, and do kind of models and stuff of it, and then finally get the time to test it and then run through it like that. And obviously time and money helps that, but technical wise, I think we've all been quite fortunate to come in at the right time, where it means that a lot of time it's going to be done with a laptop and a couple of little plug-in extras. Like the basics now would just be a laptop with a decent graphics card in it so you don't break something. A couple of clips, and then a MIDI controller is probably the handiest thing as well. Just a standard musical MIDI controller, plug it in, and then map it off to the software.
It's all very mobile.
That's it. You still 100% need to have a van. If just
get a van.
Yeah. If like one thing, like if I'm not sure if there's anyone ever going into this kind of side of things. Like if you do, fair play to you, because God, it's taken us like nearly 5 years to get this far, and we're still not making much money from it kind of thing. So, but like I said, if you are starting off, like just make sure you have your mind in place, like do things by the book from day one, otherwise you'll end up messing around doing little silly things, buying little extra things. Like I've gone through about €1,000 worth of MIDI controllers, just off little small things like, oh, this will be fun, and you end up using one button on it and then you never use it again. But otherwise, yeah, technically it's simple. Yeah, anyone who has a kind of grasp on video editing is nearly halfway there anyway. And if you have to, like, 3D modelling that's Mark's big thing, and I have never ever touched on it. But literally just from the Body and Soul gig, started learning that, and it makes things a hell of a lot easier because you can start mocking up 3D models. And again, because testing is such a hard thing, you can mock it up in 3D space and then realise if there's any issues.
Okay. Thanks for coming in to us, lads. Appreciate it. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you very much. Nice
Thanks,
man.
Mark.
Cheers, dude.
Danny, back to you.
Quite an ending there. Okay, that was Kieran Mangan talking to Mark and Collie, the visual artists Tissier. Now it's time for a gig guide, and we're starting with a very special event in the Pint on Eden Quay tonight. If you want to turn off your TV and run to the Pint, I wouldn't blame you, because Arno Core are in town. The heavy rock tribute to Arnold Schwarzenegger and his various movies, such as Predator, The Terminator, and of course, Kindergarten Cop. Friday night in the Academy 2, Phantom 105.2 for all that's big and beige and alternative rock are putting on a gig. Funeral Suits playing there in the Academy 2 on Friday night. Saturday in Shomer Spree, it's a €10 BYOB event with former guests from this show, Melodica Deathship. They are playing alongside Minnows on Saturday night. Also Saturday night in the Project Art Centre, Skinny Wolves presents I Heart the Monster Hero, Patrick Kelleher, and girls' names. There's some girls with names. Okay. Saturday in Whelan's, it's an all-day Bockety Pop extravaganza as Popsicle Island launched their third and final compilation. Of course, we had Annie and Porrick from Yeah Deadlies and Tyrannosaur into us. They'll be playing. Also playing are Land Lovers. There's some lovers of the land, obviously. And last but not least, amongst many others, Squarehead. Oh, young love. Saturday night in the Button Factory, Choice Cuts presents the legendary production duo Sly and Robbie. Quite a pairing. Saturday night in the Button Factory, €22.50 into that. Also Monday night in the Button Factory, don't forget your shovel if you want to go to Christy Moore. Christy Moore is playing for €30. You can see him on Monday night in the Button Factory. Now some more Irish music legends that played the Button Factory, and they have Christy's seal of approval, are the Jimmy Cake. Aoife Barry met them this week. They headlined the Joyful Slog gig, and you're going to see some of that right now. This is the Jimmy Cake on Community of Independence. Will I do a Jules Holmes introduction? I may as well. The incredible Jimmy Cake!
I'm here with Vinny and John from the Jimmy Cake. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Cool. Good, you're not too dazzled by all the patterns around us here?
No, I'm feeling kind of at home. Like I've always wanted to live in the 70s and be an adult in the 70s, and this is probably about the closest I'll ever get to it, so this will do nicely.
It's pretty nifty space indeed. Now,
yep.
the two of you, obviously the Jimmy Cake has been going for, what, nearly 12 years now?
Approaching 12 now, yeah.
How does it feel to look back over that time and everything that you've done in that time?
With a great sense of accomplishment slash regret in terms of proud of what we did and kind of slightly regret not working harder, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
I suppose everybody has a bit of regret about everything, so maybe you can kind of forget about that.
I'd say it's very natural for it to exist and all that, but still it's there, and it's constructive regret, I hope.
Does it feel like it's been 12 years? Does it feel like the turn of the millennium is when it all began?
For me, no. I find it kind of terrifying that it was that long ago.
Really?
Yeah. It's sort of interesting to me as well, just that the first two records that we did took a little over a year, and then sort of with one EP notwithstanding, the next two records have so far taken the better part of 10.
Yes, you're taking a bit more time to release.
You could call it a more considered approach, but that'd be diplomatic, I think.
Because it's so many of you, is it a lot about compromise when it comes to making albums and getting together and trying to record and write?
Very much so. I mean, you have to compromise with that amount of people, and not everyone wants the same. I mean, even like within the band, people's natural listening preferences, they don't collide all the time. So what you want to try and make is the best sound you can make with the best intentions of the individuals involved, which can be unbelievably frustrating at times and totally magic at times. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure about, like, I mean, you have to compromise, but I don't think compromise is the best word, because you know, I might bring something in that I would have very much in my head that it does a certain thing and needs to go a certain way, and then when you run that through the brains of, you know, 6-7 other people, it's not going to come out the way that I had in mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a madly infuriating thing, but equally as often the results are considerably better, you know, that sort of way.
I suppose like when you have like that amount of people, that everybody has their own probably kind of vision of what's going to happen, you know, so you all maybe want your own things to happen with the records, and then when you all come together, like you're saying, like it's kind of filtered through other people's opinions. But would you find in one way you're all kind of the same mind? I mean, if you've all been generally working together for a long period of time, that there is that sense that you kind of know what each other wants and where you all want to go?
You would see kicks against certain things sort of throughout the life of the band, in the sense that the third album, Spectre and Crown, certainly would have been an attempt to do something fairly different after what was a fairly heavy album in Dublin Gone, which came before it. And then again, sort of what we're doing now is pretty much a kick against that again. We sort of wanted to do something a lot heavier, a lot more driving, a lot more rhythmic.
Spacier.
And that kind of made it you either want to take drugs or feel like you already had taken drugs. I think that's certainly part of my motivation for it anyway. So it's...
John works in addiction services, so it's very much in his best interest to make a record that
I see what you did
maintains
there.
high level drug use in the city.
I see, so this kind of cosmic zombie psych kind of stuff that you've got going on as well.
But with a
basically just to keep me in a job.
Yeah.
Professional agenda too, yeah.
And can you tell me a bit more about that though, that change musically, besides trying to get people into illicit substances? You know, have you kind of simplified it in terms of playing it live, that you don't need kind of to bring extra people on stage with you, or you're not juggling things? Or
instead of 10 people, we have 6 people and an extra 72 instruments or something like that. So in one sense, it's easier to manage because there's less voices to have to go through in terms of democracy.
Yeah.
But in another sense, one person has like 9 instruments, another person has 3. So you know, it's kind of like the EU, where Paul and Parks would be Germany, and the rest of us would be the Eastern European countries.
So the album is going to be, in a word, epic from what I hear about it. Can you tell me a bit about the concept behind it and how you're releasing it?
Well, it's going to be 72 minutes long, just 3 songs.
It might be epic.
That kind of sounds a bit epic to me.
The results, we have yet to kind of hear the finished product, but the intention was certainly epic. The results will hopefully reflect the intention. It's going to be 72 minutes long, released on double vinyl. It's going to be called Popular Music, and it's going to feature art by a particularly great English artist called Jack Teagle, continuing in our recent tradition of getting shit-hot artists when they're young to give us their work for as little money as possible. We've got two pictures by Jack Teagle to use on the gatefold vinyl, and they're both equally brilliantly, bizarrely funny. And he's generously offered us as much help as we can in terms of our funded campaign, and has basically given us our blessing to use his art in whatever context we might or might not need. And all he wants out of it is maybe a record and you know, a couple of pints or something. So again,
this constitutes a contract, by the way.
That's how it works these days, yeah.
But it just in terms of being an indie band and actually having somebody who we like, or would probably, if we had the money, pay a lot of money to use, saying no, don't worry about it, is like spectacularly amazing for us, and just a real reflection of how well the community can work when it does work. Like Paul put on a Teagle exhibition in Rage Records last year, and Jack was incredibly grateful for it, and his way of saying thank you to Paul, part of that is to give us kind of really good usage of his work on our record. And at a time when we're flat broke, it's about as welcome as it could possibly be. So,
can you tell me a bit more about the funded element then?
Well, for the first time ever, for the first time we're broke. Well, not so much broken that we've always existed subsistently, and there's always been gigs and money coming in a pretty regular way, but we've gigs so little now, and we haven't released anything in 4 years. It's finally caught up, so we just don't have the money in advance to do it. So fund it is the way to go, and Jack lending us his art to do that means we can add all kinds of incentives to the record as well. So funded, it's just a necessity for us. There's nothing else we can do. We either borrow money or we get it in advance, and getting in advance seems a more sensible way in the current climate, I think.
And that way as well, you like the fans, the people who listen to your music, they feel like they're not only contributing to it, but they're getting something as well, you know what I mean, in terms of either art or music or some sort of extras. So there's kind of a little bit of an incentive for them to
karma.
help out. And
Karma
is probably good.
Karma is the most important element, and the bad karma of not supporting it.
Eek.
Yeah, that's the angle we're going on.
So what's the time frame at the moment? So for the album, Popular Music, when can we expect kind of?
It's being mixed now. It's been a tumultuous kind of few months between some passings away of important people to members of the band, and money running dry and availability for people. So it's at the mixing stage now, and each season we say 2 seasons from now, but we're going to be optimistic and say autumn this time.
Autumn would be nice.
Autumn would be delightful. So if the album's out by autumn, we'd be thrilled to bits. But if it's still not out by summer 2016, I probably won't be surprised.
I'd say you'll have a mob kind of baying for your blood if that if that happens. Listen, best of luck with the release of the album. It was great to chat to you about it. I can't wait to hear the double gatefold version of it.
Thanks, Community of Independence.
think I need to lie down and a cigarette after that. That was Jimmy Cake with Space Champion, recorded live at the Joyful Slog gig back in May in the Button Factory. I'm joined by Sleep Thieves. Thank you very much for coming into us, Sleep Thieves.
Thank you for having us.
Not too bad, not too bad. Like I said, my mind's a little blown, but I shall continue. Let me ask you, in an interview a couple of years back in State.ie, you guys said that bands nowadays, they have to be a musician and a businessman in order to get exposure. Is that still the case a few years down the line for you guys?
I think definitely so. No matter how big you get in this day and age, I think, you know, if you ever want to ally yourselves with anyone in terms of the pure business end of music, I think there's a possibility of having to surrender some sort of control as well. And if you want to get, you know, songs released quickly, get it done often, do it on your own terms, then you've no choice but to put on the business hat as well, I think, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose we're not so worried or concerned about all the mechanics behind everything, but you still have to do your social networking and, you know, knowing where to order your CDs from and what a template looks like for your graphic design. So you basically you're putting on a lot of different hats. But it's a bit simpler now. People are helping each other out a bit more, so we're not as isolated as we were a few years ago, maybe when we said that originally. Okay.
The debut album, interesting thing that came out of the debut album, obviously it was very well received, but as you found out, it was downloaded in increasing numbers on illegal file sharing sites. Ultimately, was that more good than bad? I mean, I heard that you got a lot of exposure as a result of that, just getting the name out and people listening to the music.
Yeah, I wrote a blog on that actually on our WordPress in around January, I think it was. We just spotted on Google searches, and it was the nexus of it all was some Russian file sharing site. All this, you know, Cyrillic alphabet that we hardly even understood. But then, boom, it was up loads of different places online, and like I think places like Last.fm where you can sort of track users and what they're listening to. We just noticed the explosion there. So obviously, you know, anyone who listened there, we weren't getting any sales or money in. But from an exposure point of view, the album, at least at the time, was 6 or 7 months out. So I think, you know, ideally at the end of the day, we sort of said that we were just happy with the, you know, skyrocketing listenership, really.
Yeah. That's where I got it from. I downloaded it, I didn't buy it.
Well, I suppose I don't download, like, I very rarely download anything unless the band are giving it away, or otherwise I go and buy the physical copy. But, but no, it's true. And so, I mean, when other people do it, it's like, good. Never mind, you know, it's grand, we're not going to dwell on it, and it's good internationally. Yeah. You have a lot more listeners, but in the end it doesn't really lead to anything. It's just another thing that's happened, and, you know, you're not going to have sleepless nights about it. Or
yeah. The new EP, anyway, the same hopefully hasn't happened with the new EP, but...
oh, it has, yeah.
It has, well, right. But you said that it provoked a change in style and direction. How so?
Yeah, I think... I suppose maybe we stepped back a bit with this EP and we, you know, hid ourselves away. We were listening to a lot of music. We toured with some bands that maybe influenced us, and you can hear those influences. But I think the key thing is we've kind of found what we want to sound like, and the album was recorded 2 years ago, so that's like a long time. And I suppose all three of us, as myself, Wayne and Derek at the time, not Keith, but we were all coming from bands where maybe we didn't have a lot of say in what was happening in the band. So we were finding our feet as, you know, musicians who were completely in charge of what was happening. But I suppose we were also swayed by a lot of different opinions, and maybe that muddied up what the actual album sounded like.
What do you mean by swayed by opinions? Like, what opinions?
With this EP, we literally knew exactly what we wanted it to sound like. So we had all the demos done, we went in, and Sean was fantastic, and he could recreate exactly from our visual descriptions. Like, I was really, you know, visual about what I wanted it to sound like, and had a real sense of, you know, the sound to be honeyed and, you know, melancholy, but at the same time uplifting, and, you know, to have layers and to feel like everything was really close together, and have that kind of lo-fi sound and yet recorded well. But before,
he could translate that.
We could translate that, and we wrote the songs and recorded them within, I mean, apart from, say, Islands and Some of Different Time, the other three were written in a day, and we demoed them over a weekend, and within a month we released the EP. So I suppose we had a lot more sense of what we wanted to sound like, and it was, you know, it was great having someone new as well. It gives you that new perspective. So Keith had a lot to bring to the band, and I think as well, we're all growing in confidence. So it's like doing it DIY, but doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
So not just, you know, not trying to please anybody anymore. We didn't really care what bloggers were going to like it or what people were going to say or what, you know, we figured if people like it, they like it. We felt the songs were really good. And I think confidence is the biggest difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of stand up and say, this is us, you know.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to try and put our foot in 3 different corners, like maybe in the album. We tried to, you know, show off a few different styles. We just know this is us now, and you know, here we are.
Yeah. Are you going to play a song from that tonight for us?
Yes. We're going to play Islands. Yeah, the title track.
Okay. And what inspired it lyrically?
I think basically it's about where the band was and realising...
Marooned on an island.
Yeah, basically a bit like we were kind of felt very much like after the album we were on our own and we just had to get on with doing what we wanted to do. This is very unlikely to be our day job, making us enough money to go and, you know, buy somewhere and settle down with a recording studio and all of that kind of thing. But that doesn't stop us loving what we do.
And we're actually quite happy by that as well.
Yeah.
Like we've kind of realised that it's not something that we're going to do. Like we're doing it for fun, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we commit completely.
I know it's stupid and cliched to kind of say that, but it is. Like we are enjoying it. I don't mind my day job at all because I get to make music in the evening.
Yeah.
So.
And it gives us much more control over what we do. So we put our own money in. We know when we want to do it. We like have a great rehearsal room. We spend as much time as we want. So, you know, and I suppose that was really what the song was about, was saying, F everybody else and let's just go make music that we want to make.
Cool. Well, we shall watch that now, thanks to a star wipe. Thank you very much for coming into a Sleep Thieves. Star wipe it. Go on.